Hey guys, how's it going? Chad here and welcome back to my channel 876 Awesome, where we discuss content relating to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And in my previous video, I gave you guys details about 3 of the upcoming movies of Marvel's Phase 4, The Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. However, as you guys probably noticed, I didn't mention the first 2 movies on the schedule, Black Widow and Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings. And the reason for that was because they already came out prior to me making the video. But let's move on. Shang-Chi was released on September 3rd, and the movie did exceptionally well at the box office, grossing just over $400 million. Black Widow, on the other hand, saw a total box office earnings of over $360 million, and it was also released on Disney Plus through the Premier Access model, from which it saw returns of over $125 million, bringing the total earnings to just over $485 million. However, things took an unexpected turn when we found out that Scarlett Johansson was not quite happy with Disney's choices. Back in July, Scarlett Johansson sued Disney for breach of contract. In her complaint, Johansson said she was guaranteed an exclusive theatrical release when she signed the deal. So after the movie was released on Disney Plus at the same time as its cinema release, this allegedly violated the terms of the contract. But however, this is all done and dusted because the 2 parties have settled the dispute. But the details of the settlement have not been disclosed. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's return to our regular scheduled programming. Marvel Studios has announced their full schedule, including release dates for their upcoming films through 2024. And in this video, we're continuing to discuss the full list, including what we know so far, with notable key details of course. And as always, be sure to stay tuned until the end of the video. So with that said, let's get into this. After we witness all the craziness that will happen in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, up next on the schedule, we have Thor Love and Thunder. Thor surely has come a long way since he was banished to Earth way back in 2011. One of the founding members of the Avengers, the God of Thunder, went through a comedic reinvention in Thor Ragnarok, which in fact was one of the best to come out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is why we've been looking forward to the follow-up ever since it was announced at San Diego Comic-Con in 2019. The hammer-wielding Norse god will be on the big screen for the 8th time, but the biggest news so far is that Natalie Portman is coming back to the franchise as Dr. Jane Foster, the physicist who joined forces with Thor in the first 2 films, and the girl who apparently dumped Thor.
She didn't dump me, you know. I dumped her. It's a mutual dumping.
This time, however, Foster will be gaining godlike powers of her own, and along with guest appearances from Guardians of the Galaxy and other notable characters, there are plenty of other reasons why this is one of the most eagerly anticipated movies on the MCU schedule. So here's everything you need to know about Thor Love and Thunder. The movie's filming wrapped up back in June in Australia, as revealed in this Instagram photo posted by Hemsworth, with director Taika Waititi now heading into the lengthy post-production process. So who do we expect to see in the movie? Well, of course, we're not surprised to find out that we're going to see the return of Chris Hemsworth as the God of Thunder. And also, I'm happy to mention that some of his new Asgardian friends will be joining him in the cast. Tessa Thompson will reprise her role as Valkyrie, who was left as the ruler of New Asgard. And from further back in the Thor catalog, Jamie Alexander is reportedly returning back as the Asgardian warrior Sif. Remember, she was absent when her companions, the Warrior 3, were killed off in Thor Ragnarok. Director Taika Waititi himself will be back into his performance capture suit to play Korg. So, let's continue with the cast members that I haven't yet mentioned. We have Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, Dave Bautista as Drax, Karen Gillan as Nebula, Pom Clementif as Mantis, Sean Gunn as Kraglin, Matt Damon as actor Loki, Luke Hemsworth as actor Thor, and Sam Neill as actor Odin. So now, what do we know about the movie's story? Well, the movie will be released before Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, so we expect the plot point to be up until or just before that point. But we expect the movie to address the way how we left Thor at the end of Avengers Endgame, that is, overweight and becoming friends with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Having appeared in the original Thor and the very disappointing 2013 sequel Thor The Dark World, Portman was nowhere to be seen in Thor Ragnarok, as Thor spent most of the movie on the alien world of Sakaar. Love and Thunder will be inspired by the Thor comics Marvel writer Jason Aaron. In that comic, Thor loses the ability to lift Mjolnir, and Jane Foster takes on the mantle of Thor while simultaneously battling cancer. However, no word has been given about how she will actually receive her powers as Thor. Expectations will be from Jane becoming the mighty Thor. Will her transformation be contained to just Love and Thunder, or will it extend into other films? Either way, we're excited to find out how everything will actually play out. And now, time to reveal the new actors that were added to the cast. Crossing over from another superhero universe, two actors secured roles as both DC and Marvel characters, as we see Batman actor Christian Bale playing the villain Gore the God Butcher, and also Russell Crowe, who played Superman's father Jor-El in Man of Steel, also joins the exclusive DC Marvel Club. So you're probably wondering, who are these new characters, Gore and Zeus, and what exactly do we know about them? Well, according to the comics, Gore the God Butcher was born on a planet with no name, and almost every day on the brink of starvation he was taught to trust in the gods. But they never answered his prayers, and after the death of his wife, he vowed to seek vengeance against all gods for never answering his prayers. So when he stumbled upon a mysterious ancient sword called the Necro Sword, he swore to use it to slaughter every god in creation. But as of this moment, it is unclear how the sword will be introduced into the MCU, or if he will even have it. Marvel Studios like to switch up plot lines to make films a bit different from the comics. But fortunately for us, Marvel's What If Episode 2 serves to set up Gore's MCU story rather well. This is seen in Episode 2, where the Collector expanded his collection, and among the artifacts he acquired was what he called a Necro Sword, courtesy of the Asgardian goddess of death. The episode therefore confirmed the name of Hela's sword in Thor Ragnarok. But what's so interesting about this particular scene is that the Collector called it a Necro Sword, and that it is not necessarily the only one of its kind, which means there could be others, maybe one more being in the hands of Gore the God Butcher. Now, moving on to the other additional character in the movie, we have Russell Crowe. Crowe, who played Superman's father Jor-El in Man of Steel, also joins the exclusive DC Marvel Club. According to a report in Entertainment Weekly, he revealed that he's playing Zeus in the new movie. And seeing as how we're dealing with gods and the God Butcher, the addition of Zeus should not be surprising. Zeus in the comics is basically the Greek god we know from the mythology, which is the leader of the other Greek gods residing in Olympus. It is also unclear how he will enter the MCU. However, perhaps Thor will briefly come across Zeus on Olympus, but we'll just have to wait and see. But from what I've gotten out of all of this, is that we're expecting to see Greek and Norse mythology existing side by side in the MCU for the first time. Waititi has previously described the film as, and I quote, "so over the top now in the very best way. After writing 4 or 5 drafts, it makes Ragnarok seems like a really run-of-the-mill, very safe film. This new film feels like we asked a bunch of 10-year-olds what should be in a movie and just said yes to everything. Thor Love and Thunder will be hitting theaters in May 2022. And now, coming up next on the list, this is one of the most highly anticipated on the MCU schedule. We have Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. The tragic death of star Chadwick Boseman in August of last year means that the follow-up will come filled with a lot of sadness. But even without its leading actor, however, Black Panther 2 is certain to be a hit. Out of the 23 MCU movie releases to date, only the 4 Avengers movies have performed better at the worldwide box office than the first Black Panther. In fact, the original movie is the 4th highest grossing movie of all time in the US. It was also the first superhero movie nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. In other words, the world is eager for a return to the technological advanced nation of Wakanda. So it is no surprise that Marvel has rehired the first director, Ryan Coogler, to lead the action. Back in 2018, Black Panther introduced us to the futuristic African nation of Wakanda and its protector, King T'Challa. But what will Black Panther 2 look like without its warrior king? When should we see it in the cinemas? Who will be in the cast? What can we expect from the story? And how will it fit in the wider MCU continuity? Well, to try and answer those questions, let's delve a bit deeper and discuss the intel we have so far. So, here is the current Black Panther 2 cast list up to this point. We have Letitia Wright as Shuri, Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia, Danai Gurira as Okoye, Winston Duke as M'Baku, Angela Bassett as Ramonda, and Martin Freeman as Everett Ross. We also have 2 new stars that were added to the cast. Tenoch Huerta and Michaela Coel will also be included in the movie, but their characters are yet to be announced. There is only one Chadwick, and he's not with us. Our king unfortunately has died in real life, not just in fiction, and we are taking a little time to see how we return to history and what we do to honor this chapter of what has happened to us that was so unexpected, so painful, so terrible really. Those were the words of Marvel Studios Executive Vice President Victoria Alonso speaking in an interview with Argentine newspaper Clarín. Additionally, Black Panther 2 will not cast a new actor to play King T'Challa. Speaking at Disney's Investor Day conference in December of last year, Marvel Studios President Kevin Feige had this to say, and I quote, "Chadwick Boseman was an immensely talented actor and inspirational individual who affected all of our lives, both personally and professionally. His portrayal of T'Challa the Black Panther is iconic and transcends any iteration of the character from any other medium in Marvel's past. For that reason, we will not be recasting the character." End quote. So, what do we know about the story? Well, right now, basically little is known for sure about the Black Panther 2 plot. And indeed, with Boseman having kept his cancer diagnosis a secret, Coogler had originally worked on a script that would feature the star reprising his role as T'Challa. So the script definitely had to be altered to relate to his passing. But what exactly does that mean for Wakanda Forever? Well, from Marvel's December 2020 Disney Investor Day presentation, we know that the sequel will continue to explore the incomparable world of Wakanda and all the rich and varied characters introduced in the first film. And although Wakanda Forever won't feature T'Challa, it will presumably address the character's absence in some way. There is a strong possibility the Black Panther 2 plot will introduce its successor in that iconic vibranium catsuit. In fact, there have been numerous rumors that Shuri will inherit the Black Panther mantle. After all, it's already happened in the comics. Black Panther 2, aka Black Panther Wakanda Forever, will debut in cinemas on July 8, 2022. The movie will also be available on Disney Plus at some point, possibly 4 to 5 days after its theatrical release, depending on how Disney handles it. Up next, Carol Danvers returned to the action as Captain Marvel in The Marvels. But this will be a short explanation though, because we don't have a lot of details to go through. But let's move on. In January of last year, Marvel reportedly hired WandaVision staff writer Megan McDonnell to begin drafting a sequel to Captain Marvel. Brie Larson will return as Carol, and considering how vital they were to the first film, you can probably expect Samuel L. Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn to return as Nick Fury and the shape-shifting alien Talos. At the 2020 Disney Investor Day presentation, Kevin Feige revealed Ms. Marvel will be played by Iman Vellani, and also Teyonah Parris, who played Monica Rambeau in WandaVision, is also joining the cast, confirming the film will take place in the modern-day MCU. So how does it fit in the wider Marvel Cinematic Universe? Well, considering the continued cosmic emphasis post-Endgame, it is entirely possible the Marvels will follow up on ideas from Guardians of the Galaxy and the Eternals. Also, with Ms. Marvel and Monica Rambeau joining Carol on this adventure, we know the film will feature space and Earth in some capacity. Also, we expect Fury's Armada will be of great interest to Carol. We can expect the Marvels to be released on November 11, 2022. Now, on to the movies that we will see in 2023. Up first, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Picking up sometime after Endgame, Scott probably needs to put his life back together. The last time we saw Scott, he was alongside the other MCU heroes taking on Thanos' army. So by now, he is an acknowledged hero, which should help in some manner. Although one imagines his relationship with his daughter Cassie will be fairly different. So who can we expect to see in the movie? Well, Cassie will be played by Catherine Newton, taking over from Emma Furman. And also, we can expect to see Hope, aka The Wasp, played by Evangeline Lilly, Hank, played by Michael Douglas, and Janet, played by Michelle Pfeiffer. They will all return for the third movie. So the question is, how does it fit in the wider MCU? Well, Hope, Janet, and Hank may need to adjust to life after returning from the snap 5 years into the future. But their attempt at finding a new normal will be upset by the arrival of the infamous time traveler, Kang the Conqueror, played by Jonathan Majors. And those of us who already watched the Loki series probably know who Kang is, but I'll explain in a moment. In April of 2019, Rick and Morty writer Jeff Loveness emerged as the film writer, with director Peyton Reed set to return for his third movie with Scott and others. Now this is a spoiler alert, so feel free to move ahead in the video, but if you're still here, let's move on. In the last episode of the Loki series, we found out who was really pulling all the strings. It was actually Kang the Conqueror, or rather one of his variants. In reality, the name of the character we see in Loki is actually He Who Remains, which is just a variant of his actual character Nathaniel Richards in the series. Kang the Conqueror is actually another one of his variants, a very powerful, evil one. And considering the Ant-Man films have always been fun MCU side stories, it is difficult to forecast how Quantumania will fit into the larger scope. But with Majors joining the production as Kang, it is clear the film will introduce some aspects of Fantastic Four lore into the MCU. But at the same time, the Ant-Man movies have always been high-spirited outliers when it comes to the continued storylines Marvel likes to create. We can expect to see Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania in theaters on February 17, 2023. And finally, last but not least, we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. While the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3's plot is still unknown, writer and director James Gunn said this movie will wrap up the trilogy. We'll see Chris Pratt return as Star-Lord, Dave Bautista as Drax, Karen Gillan as Nebula, Bradley Cooper as Rocket, Vin Diesel as Groot, and Pom Clementis as Mantis. And after the events of Avengers Endgame, we'll also be seeing Zoe Saldana return as Gamora. But at this point, it's still a fill-in-the-blank situation as we haven't had much details on movies this far in the future. We do have updates, however. Guardians Volume 3 is currently the final movie in Marvel's Phase 4 movie schedule, due to Fantastic Four not having a release date as yet. So it's plausible that some fans may think its plot would be the catalyst for the MCU Phase 5, but that is not the case. Speaking to Collider during the press tour for Warner Bros.' The Suicide Squad, director James Gunn revealed that Marvel Studios had not asked him to include plotlines that would bridge the gap between their Phase 4 and Phase 5 plans, meaning that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is not being primed to set up future events in the MCU. But nevertheless, while Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 won't be the driving force for Phase 5, Gunn's other Marvel project will be necessary viewing for MCU fans. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which will arrive on Disney Plus in December 2022, will bridge the gap between Volume 2 and Volume 3. And not only that, but the 40-minute special will go a long way to setting up the plot for the Guardians' next movie. Speaking in a separate interview with Collider, James Gunn stated that, and I quote, "It's in canon, it's about the Guardians. You're going to learn stuff that you need to learn before Volume 3. And it's really great, I'm really happy with it." End quote. So, how exactly will the holiday special bridge that gap? Well, for starters, it may be something related to Gamora. Following the events of Avengers Infinity War, present-day Gamora was killed by Thanos in order to retrieve the Soul Stone on Vormir, and Avengers Endgame, the 2014 version of Gamora went missing after Thanos' defeat, and in the last scene we saw that the Guardians have gone in search for her. But it's unclear how this particular storyline will play into the Guardians' next movie appearance in Thor: Love and Thunder. But we suspect it will be a part of the Guardians Holiday Special ahead before the search for Gamora takes center stage in Volume 3. There's also the prospect of Drax and Rocket Raccoon leaving in Volume 3 also. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 will be released on May 5th, 2023. So guys, there you have it, the schedule of upcoming Marvel films in the next few years. So as always, please like and share this video, and do subscribe to the channel if you are not. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.